Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Sunny, also known as the Oracle of Alexandria, and today I am doing an unboxing and review for the Lost Forest Tarot. This deck is one of my absolute favorite tarots. This box is from the first edition. I actually got this box with the first edition majors only. So the version that I actually have of the complete tarot is the Lost Forest version 2, which came in this box. I don't know if there have been any subsequent versions since I purchased this, but I will leave a link to the author's creator's website down below where I got it so that you can look for updates if you would be interested in this deck. Also, if you would just like to see a flip through instead of a full review on what you get and what the deck looks like and all of that, I will have a link to that down in the description box below also. So, when I ordered my copy of the second edition of the Lost Forest Tarot, I also ordered the majors from the first edition because I actually liked some of them better. There were slight changes between the two versions, majors, the artwork on the majors. And so I wanted to kind of mix and match them, which works, but not great due to some other changes on the deck. Still, one of my absolute favorite tarots, and it was totally worth it, kind of being able to customize it and choose the versions of the majors that I like best. So that is certainly something you can do. But when I go through the majors in this deck, I'm going to have to show you both the majors from the both versions so that you can see which ones you like better and see the differences for yourself. So as mentioned before, this is the box from the first edition, and this is the box from the second edition. And the reason the box was changed is because when you open it, the cards don't actually fit in the box very well. They fall out if you put the whole deck in here. And so the box was greatly improved between editions, but I very much prefer the cover art on this one versus this one. The really awesome thing about this deck, though, and the creator, is that she has it printed by a domestic U.S. printing company that pays their employees a living wage. So for her, upgrading the box to something that fits the cards a little better, but without all the color and the beautiful illustration, was probably a way to keep costs down so that the deck is still affordable, but the company is making the same amount of money, she is making the same amount of money, etc. So that's probably the reason behind those changes. And as I said, if there's been a subsequent edition released of this deck, I don't know much about it, so I can't really comment on that. Just be aware that there are bootlegs of this deck available, and please do not purchase them. Definitely help the artist and creator of the deck. Support the company that she has printing the decks so that the people who are helping to create them and bring them into existence so that we can use them are making a living wage and all of those good things. Like, please, please, please do not buy bootleg versions of this deck. It is well worth the wait to go for an official edition of the deck. So let's see. On the back of the box, there's not much. It doesn't tell you anything. It just says second edition 80 card tarot deck. Artwork by Chelsea Santamaria. And you can find her on Instagram and all of those places on social media. She is awesome. The first edition box has more information for you here, and it also has a full color image of some of the cards. So, journey through your subconscious, based on the sense of adventure seen in many works of fantasy and the hidden depths of the mind. The Lost Forest is as real as a vivid dream. But these realms of inspiration, unfettered by the burden of physical form, are capable of far more impact on our lives. Some who enter the forest will emerge transformed. Others will remain forever a shadow among the trees. It shows here limited edition of 700. So I don't know if that's complete, but that's what it says there. And then, of course, artwork by Chelsea Santa Maria. Okay, so I use this box because I like this box better. It's just really beautiful. This box is very nice. If any future editions of the deck, or if the second edition is still available and you happen to order one, the box is very sturdy, very nicely made. So these are the majors from, and here's the artist's business card here. I wasn't even aware that I had saved this, but there you go. So these are the majors that I don't use in my actual deck. And then this is the actual deck itself. And it did not come with the ribbon. I put the ribbon around it myself to keep the cards from flying everywhere when I open the box. So let's see. So the deck does not have a full Little White Book. It has a flyer, a poster, I guess you could say, that has, meanings. So it functions like a Little White Book, but it's not formatted or set up like a Little White Book. So we'll take a look at this, of course. An Adventure Through the Subconscious, the Lost Forest Tarot Guide. And this, of course, is the guide from version 2. Okay, so this here is for the major arcana. And you can see, you get a nice little snippet of information. Looks like both upright and reversed meanings or keywords. So that's pretty cool. And then among the majors, there are actually 2 additional cards, the Ascended and the Faceless. So the Ascended is actually a numbered card, number 22, and the Faceless is a numberless card, which makes it an extremely interesting card in the deck, to be sure. On the back, we have all of the meanings for the different minors and their suits. So we have here the Suit of Skies, which is the Suit of Swords, the Suit of Intellect and the Mind, ruled by Kirin, whose outward ferocity belies a calm and benevolent nature. The Suit of Fire, obviously the Suit of Wands, the Suit of Spirit and Inspiration, the duality of creation through destruction of life and death, seen whenever new life sprouts from the ashes of a wildfire. And we have the Suit of Oceans, the Suit of Fluidity and the Heart. The ocean, like our inner selves, is constantly in motion, peaceful or raging from one moment to the next. And then lastly, the Suit of Earth, obviously the Suit of Coins, and then the Suit of Oceans is the Suit of Cups. The Suit of Abundance and the Tangible. Kitsune, a common sight, can be found following single file behind lost travelers. So this deck is fantastic in general. As a deck, it is amazing. It has some very interesting artwork for the cards, very unique, which offer a lot in the way of interpretation. It has the addition of 2 unique cards, and then it also has the different majors that you can mix and match of your own. Right, so sorry, my allergies are really getting to me today. So I'm going to have to kind of try to make enough room for both decks here. So before we get into, let's see, this is 2nd edition. I need a first edition. Okay, so before we get into the deck proper, I wanted to show you the backs of the cards. So this one is the first edition, and you can see it says The Lost Forest on there. And it has certain parts of it that are glossy. So it has a design that some parts are gloss, some parts are matte, and it's really beautiful. Of course, you can only see it when the light hits it in the right direction. They did the same thing on the second edition, but it's different from the first edition. There's more solid sections instead of just little striped sections and so on. And there are no words, making the second edition much easier to use reversed. And there are also some really interesting little circle shapes, or diamonds, I guess they are. I guess they're diamonds. You can see them, again, only when the light hits them the right way. So it's a very neat effect. A lot of detail in it. All right, so for ease of actually being able to view the artwork, I went ahead and just took the majors out of the rest of the deck so that we can look at them side by side and you can see the changes in case you would be interested in picking up your own, supposing it's still available, your own copy of the first edition only majors. So the main difference between the front of the cards is that the first edition had very bright white font on it. The second edition has very, I guess it's a gray color and it's very faint. The camera is actually picking it up really well, at least from what I can see through the viewfinder. So that is something to keep in mind, that if you have any vision difficulties, the lighter font might be difficult to see. As I understand it, the intention behind this was essentially she didn't want the card titles to detract from the art. She wanted it to be less stand out, have it stand out less, so that it's not detracting from the art or distracting someone from really becoming immersed in the visuals. So, some people like the change, some people don't. Obviously, that's up to you. When I have the two majors mixed in a single deck, of course, I've got some that have the lighter font from the first edition and then some that are faded out from the second edition. I also have on the back of the cards where it says The Lost Forest. So, but it's just something that you kind of have to go with if you don't want to use all of the second edition majors. So, all right, let's see here. Right, so you can kind of see some of the differences. The color intensity is much brighter on the first edition full. This one looks a bit more faded all around. Everywhere there's lighter coloration. Hence why I chose this one, because I like the brighter colors. Also, you may have noticed that the promotional materials, the box, the poster, all of that, talk about the deck being an adventure through the subconscious. This deck is fantastic for shadow readings, for diving into your subconscious, for diving into past lives and things of that nature. It's great for any type of reading, but it does seem that it was kind of created with this concept in mind, that it's going to be for shadow work, for looking into the subconscious rather than what is on the surface in the ego, in the consciousness. So, all right, so let's move on from the Fool. And these are the ones from my deck. So if you are interested to see which ones I selected for my use in my personal deck. So again, the colors are a little bit more brighter and vivid on this one. Some of the cards, the art looks a bit more finished. So here you can kind of see a big difference is that this background on the 2nd edition Mystic is more dark gray, and this looks more orange, whereas this is dark kind of burgundy, and up here it's more of a blue-gray. Then we have the Empress. So between the 2 editions, for whatever reason, the artwork was mirrored. And you can kind of see where this one has more pointillism kind of in the leaves. This one, the leaves are look to be much broader brush strokes, maybe a bit more paint on the brush. I'm not really sure how it was done, but both are absolutely beautiful. This one is more of a lavender color, and then this one is more of a, I guess you could say, indigo color because it's got more blue in it. But both are absolutely gorgeous, and either one would be a fantastic choice for use in your deck. Now we have the Emperor. So this, again, is the 1st edition Emperor. You can see that there's a lot of color changes that were made here. The yellow leaves were almost entirely removed or darkened in the 2nd edition Major. The leaves have a bit more definition on the 2nd edition Emperor, and then the 1st edition Emperor, again, is more not quite so well defined. It's more blurred. So it's very beautiful though, and you can see that there's another kitsune there in the shadows of the tree. And the shadows here are much more blue, whereas over here they're more of a light gray. Again, both would be absolutely fantastic choices for your deck. So then we have, of course, the Hierophant. I don't think that there were any major changes to the Hierophant. As a matter of fact, the Emperor, unlike the Empress, wasn't mirrored like the Empress was, so they both look identical. And then the Hierophant here is the same also. And really, it's just the pinks in here are a little bit richer and darker, whereas here it looks a bit more washed out. But both are still extremely beautiful, and both would be fantastic in a deck. Then you have the Lovers. So here you're really getting a sense of what the deck is all about, with the subconscious and the shadow and things of that nature, because you have the way things are on the surface and then below the depths. And that is an extremely powerful Lovers card, because there's really so much you could take from this imagery. Like, if you were doing a love reading and you had this version of the Lovers come up, is this relationship a dead relationship that seems lively and vibrant on the surface, but underneath it's run its course? Or perhaps, he is saving her from, in some manner, from feeling dead inside, pulling her out of the water? Or if it were a new relationship, is this someone who would be really bad for this person, who's going to pull them down into the water that doesn't look so great under there? So really, there's so much you could do with it. And obviously, depending on how you would interpret it, would depend on the cards around it and the type of spread you are doing, what your prompt is, etc. So I really love it. It's so flexible. And really, there were no major changes to it other than, again, the colors were kind of lightened up a little. So here we have the Chariot. And on some of the cards, you can see, like with the Emperor and Empress, the leaves were more well defined. Sometimes the art between the two editions is touched up a little to look more finished. Obviously, it looks fantastic in the first edition, no matter what. In this case, I went with the second edition version of the Chariot because I actually like the lighter coloring here. You can see more of the details, like in her clothing and stuff. Whereas over here, the darkness, all of the colors kind of blend into each other. So it's really hard to make out the details. Even the background pops more. I mean, actually, it looks great on camera. I'm looking directly at the cards, but on camera, both look fantastic. But in person, this one it's much harder to see what's going on in the background. Whereas with this one, because it's lighter, you can make out more of the details in the background. So really the contrast is a little better on the second edition Chariot for me personally than the first edition, but both are so absolutely incredible. Then we have Strength. So it's a very beautiful and very original take on Strength. And again, no major changes. It looks pretty much identical in terms of detail, just color changes. And it's hard to tell if the changes are the result of the printing process between editions or intentional changes by the author of the deck. Either way, both are beautiful. I just like the first edition a little better. Now we have the Hermit, again, pretty much identical. I really like the vibrant greens of the first edition Hermit, so I went with that one. This one's a bit more yellow. It's still beautiful, still very nice colors. Either one is a win, really, pretty much in every case. Like, it doesn't matter which one you choose, whichever one you like better. Both are amazing. So, the Wheel of Fortune. You can see that things were changed a bit here. Some clouds were added that almost kind of blend in with the trees to look like leaves. Then you've got the trees from the Suit of Fire, or wands, here. Your ocean scene is a bit different also. This one looks more watery from the first edition, and this one has a lot more going on underneath the surface of the water, more kind of filling the scene. And then for your Suit of Earth kind of element, there really don't seem to be too many changes. It's just that making it lighter makes it easier to see what's going on in there with all of the different shapes and shades and leaves and bushes and everything. So, all right, Justice, one of my favorite cards in the deck. It is absolutely stunning. I'm going to go ahead and set the ones I've already turned aside. Okay, so here we have the second edition and here we have the first edition. You can kind of see that here her face is a bit more well-defined. It's not a huge difference, but there is a slight difference. Also, the change in the color intensity, again, makes some of the details pop. But in the original one, the first edition one, the details weren't necessarily difficult to make out. So for me, the toning down of the color was kind of a downgrade. And the enhanced visuals on the figure's face and hair, for example, having a bit more definition there, weren't really enough for me to say, okay, I need to use this one. So I went ahead and used the first edition. Then we have the Hanged Man. So this is a very interesting version of the Hanged Man. It almost looks like what the Hanged Man might see hanging in the Lost Forest if it were a real place. So again, first edition over here because the text really pops, and then second edition over here. Really no changes other than just the color intensity. And I really like the bright, vibrant colors of this one. So now we have Death. I went ahead with the second edition of Death just because the sharper contrast black and white, I really, really loved it. It looked more shadowy, and just both are beautiful. Both are interesting interpretations of the Death card. This one just looks a little bit more snowy to me and more wintry, whereas this one looks a bit more ethereal and ghostly. So that's why I made the decision that I made. All right, then we have Temperance, which is absolutely adorable. So you have the meeting of two kind of polar opposite forces here in the most adorable way possible. A little like a kangaroo mouse with a saber tooth. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I chose the first edition one better, or I'm sorry, for my deck, not better. Even though actually the color intensity is actually more vibrant on this one than in this one. On this one, it actually looks a little more washed out, but I like the way that the shading on the lion's mane and such looks better on this one. And I also like the lion's eye, or the saber-tooth tiger's eye. The light blue on this one really pops nicely versus the other one here, where it's still beautiful, it just looks more green. So again, both are absolutely fantastic options. It's really hard to choose between them. I went ahead and stuck with the second edition version of the Devil. Again, the colors are more vibrant, whereas here they're a bit more washed out. But then also over here, you can see more of the detail in around the edges of the shadowy image here, whereas here it's much darker and a bit more ominous looking. So the way the color and the lighting works, I just really liked this version of the Devil. Right, so now we are on the Tower. So I went ahead and stuck with the first edition version of the Tower. There's really not a huge difference in the viewfinder, but in person this looks more blue, which I really like, whereas it's a bit more grayish or greenish over here. And just in general, the details kind of stand out a little better. Here it looks very washed out, whereas here on this one it's much more defined. Not that I can see it in person. I can see it both in the viewfinder though. So the Star, this one was a really tough choice. Both are absolutely gorgeous, but this peachy color wasn't really doing it for me. I absolutely love the magenta of this one, and I love the way the colors are less blended here, so they look more distinct and layered. Also, there are differences in the water. So the water is much more vibrant and rich blue here, whereas over here, it is kind of washed out, and there's actually more highlights from the different colors in the water. So both are still absolutely gorgeous, but I really like the colors on this one better. And then we have the moon. It almost looks submerged in water. I don't think it is, but it's very interesting regardless. So there really aren't any major changes. The Aurora Borealis on the first edition is a bit more detailed. There's a bit more color going on, whereas over here, it's much more faint and almost non-existent. So I did like that aspect of the moon on this one. And then, of course, just the more vibrant colors for the first edition one. But both, again, are absolutely stunning. Then we have the sun. So I could not resist the vibrant colors of the sun on this one. Here, of course, there is the issue that the sun is kind of difficult to, especially in person, not so much in the viewfinder. The sun is a little difficult to tell apart from the mountain. It really blends into itself in person, but still, I really preferred the vibrant, richer colors over here to the more lighter, washed out colors over here. Also, I didn't notice, but okay. It almost looked like this was so faint, it almost looked like there wasn't a number on, let's see if we can get the camera, there we go. On the second edition version, I was like, wait a minute, the second edition doesn't have numbers on the majors, but it does, it does. It was just very faint. All right, so now we have Judgment, which looks a lot more brutal than the Judgment that we are used to seeing, but you know, you have this scene that's kind of chaotic and destructive, and really there's no differences in the art again. But when this is over, you know, there's going to be a new beginning. The sun is going to rise again, and so you definitely have that that sort of new beginning, starting a new phase sort of concept in the art from the Judgment card. All right, the world. So again, I think this is really just the background from the Wheel of Fortune, but then it's got all of this stuff kind of transposed over it. I really like this one. Neither is particularly amazing for the world card in general, but I really like the pop of color that you get with this one. And I even think that these designs and patterns are a nice touch, whereas this one looks a little bit more plain. There's not really a whole lot going on. You can make out the elemental imagery here a bit easier, but I mean, it's not like impossible to do that on this side. So for me, I really like the first edition world over the second edition. All right, and then we have the Ascended. These are both from the second edition. I don't know if the first edition had the extra cards in it or not, but I don't have them if it did. I only have the second edition, so this is what I had to use. So this is the Ascended. This is card number 22. Very beautiful. And then this is the Faceless, which is a numberless card. Okay, so now we get into the minors. And the minors in this deck are really incredible. So we'll start with the Suit of Fire. And I'm going to go ahead and separate the different suits here real quick. Just because the cards for this deck, when you lay them out in order, they form a portrait, like a landscape. And it's really beautiful. So I'm going to try and show you as much of that as I can, while also showing you the detail of the cards themselves. Usually it goes like every 3 or 4 cards forms a coherent block, and then it starts kind of a new image after that. So usually if we can fit a good 3 or 4 cards in the picture here, we'll be in good shape. So this is the Ace of Fire, and it's very dark in person, but on the viewfinder again, you can see more of the details, and I'm hoping that you guys see it too in the final video. But it's really beautiful. There's just not really a whole lot going on with it, but you know, it's meant to be shadowy and mysterious because this deck is about the subconscious. So then we have the Two of Fire. We have what looks to be a phoenix egg that is hatching, and then there's one that's unhatched there in the background. Absolutely incredible. And then if you want to see a close-up. Okay. Alrighty. So now we have the Three of Fire, where the eggs have hatched in the 2, and then in the 3, the birds, maybe phoenixes themselves, are taking practical steps towards their future, as it were. Right. See, it's a little. There we go. All right, so that brings us to the Four of Fire, or the Four of Wands, as it were. There's really not much going on other than the fire from here has kind of grown a bit. So you have that kind of growth element to the Wands suit and development element to the suit of Wands, even if it is fire, which is kind of destructive. Also, I will say before I forget, there are some differences between the minors of the two decks. And if you're interested in seeing more of the differences between the two decks, there are videos where people have both versions, the full deck, and can compare them for you. So this is just, I only have the second edition for the minors. So, right. So now we have the Five of Fire. Not much going on here. It is an erupting volcano, though. So you definitely have that kind of conflict energy of the Five of Wands or the Five of Fire. It's just, you don't really have conflict between opposing forces necessarily so much as just one force kind of blowing its top. Right, then we have the Six of Fire, or the Six of Wands. So yes, it looks like the birds that were in the Three of Wands were phoenixes because they had those long tails like this one here. And, you know, it's beautiful. It's right in front of us, so it's getting, honors and recognition and distinction and all of that. Whereas the others were veiled, hidden in the background. Okay. Then we have the Seven of Fire. So not a whole lot going on. It's still beautiful. Okay. And then the Eight of Fire here. So you really don't get the traditional Rider-Waite sense of, the defending and then the focused action that you get. As a matter of fact, I could check the poster to see what she says that the meanings of these cards are. But, I mean, if you were reading this card for someone, you could say, what is burning? You need to fight this fire to preserve what you have left. So there is that kind of sense of defending something, defending yourself, etc. And then for this one over here, it seems like the action has already been taken. So I don't know if you could say the fire was put out by the action of the individual and things are okay, or if action needs to be taken to kind of rebuild, or, again, I think the context of the card and its meaning could change depending on the cards around it. And one thing that's really cool about this deck is that if you were to get 2 or 3 cards from a single suit in a row in numerical order, either forward or backwards, really, you would have a clear sense of progression or maybe regression, as it were, depending on the way the cards are laid out, etc. So, all right, this is the coolest part of this. So the Nine of Fire, we have gosh, I'm usually really good with dinosaurs. Obviously this is a fantasy dinosaur. But anyway, we have a dinosaur here. And she or he, they are ready to defend themselves. And in the Ten of Fire, we have what is, in essence, a mother T-Rex with her babies, and either she is fighting to defend them or she is fighting to protect them. It's hard to tell which, but it could go either way, honestly, and both are just really awesome. I love that. It's such a unique interpretation for those two cards, really. Okay, so for the Page of Fire, we have what seems to be like a salamander of some sort. And I believe traditionally there is a salamander in the Page of Wands somewhere. Okay, then for the Knight of Fire, it seems like we have a sort of Komodo dragon type creature. And it looks like it has a sail of flames on its back, so it's really cool. It's like a literal dragon in Komodo dragon form, in a way. Then we have the Queen of Fire. She's very beautiful. Magical looking, which I think really fits the Queen of Fire, or the Queen of Wands. And then, of course, the King of Fire. Okay, so let's move on to the suit of Oceans. And I will say I don't remember the order of the suits for the minors when I initially got the deck. This is just the order that I like to put them in. So yours may vary when you actually receive it, but here is the Ace of Oceans, or the Ace of Cups. Okay. Then we have the Two of Oceans. Got two fish. They kind of found each other in the murky, gloomy water. And then the Three of Oceans. I love that the surface of the water is visible all the way through. That's really beautiful. Okay. So here we have three fish who found each other through the gloom. Really beautiful again. Okay. And then the Four of Oceans. Let's see. And just have four clams with their pearls, maybe hidden away, so we can't see them. Okay, there we go. So that's what that looks like. This is kind of one complete scene, which makes sense if if you're familiar with the numerology of the tarot and so on. 1 through 4 is kind of like a series, as it were. Okay, so now we have the Five of Oceans. So things are much more mysterious, and there's definitely something that is unseen down here, as it were. I guess the skeleton, or the skeletal aspect of this, whatever it is, does kind of convey the sense of loss, and could even touch on a sense of grieving. But it's much more abstract in this art. But still, the way it's all shadowy really kind of captures the essence of the card. Then we have the Six of Oceans. So the Six of Cups, kind of moving towards a better place, moving in a better direction. Let's see if we can. Here we go. Oh. There we go. Nope. Yeah, there we go. All right. And camera does not like this card. Does not want to focus on this card at all. But okay. So there we go. Then we have the Seven of Cups, or the Seven of Oceans. And this one really does a fantastic job of conveying choices and hidden repercussions of those choices. it really is an amazing 7 of cups here. I think my tarot cloth having this image on it here is really distracting my camera's autofocus. So I guess I shouldn't use it in future videos, but I really like it. Anyway, let's go ahead and this is kind of a complete scene in and of itself here, the way it's all shadowy and dark there. So I'm going to go ahead and here we have the 8 of Oceans. Got a really awesome octopus here. Leaving behind where it was, heading towards somewhere new for a new journey. Okay. And then the 9 of Oceans. So here we've moved from night to kind of daybreak or dawn, as it were. Here we go. And then the 10 of Oceans. I absolutely love this. The 10 of Cups, big card about family. You've got a pot of whales in the background there. And then you've got a mother and maybe 2 calves. Absolutely beautiful. And that is what that one looks like. So I love this deck. I love the way it does that. I've never had 2 cards from the same suit in order come up. Unfortunately, I would love it if they did. But, oh well. So this is our Page of Cups or Page of Oceans. It's absolutely adorable. This is probably one of my favorite Page of Cups ever. And I absolutely love it. And then we have the Knight of Oceans. Very, very beautiful. Then we have the Queen of Oceans. An absolutely gorgeous mermaid. I love her. And then the King of Oceans. Which he is very, very cool looking. Okay. So I wasn't really planning on lining those up because they don't really, at least not that I'm aware of, they don't really form, none of them form like a coherent image, it doesn't seem. So I don't know. The whatever this stuff is down here does seem to kind of be lining up and connecting. So maybe these are sort of a single image, but you have a lot more green over here that doesn't really seem to be present in so there is kind of a cutoff thing there, but then down here, it looks like they match up. So I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Right. So next is the Suit of Skies or the Suit of Swords. So we have the Ace of Skies. We have a solitary tree sprouting on a lonely mountain peak there. Then for the Two of Skies, we have 2 trees. On focus. Okay. So you definitely have that concept of balance here. You don't really have the idea of like compromising or, I guess maybe if the trees are kind of reaching for each other, almost their branches look like they're about to touch in a way, then yeah, you could say they're compromising, they're reaching across the gap for each other and stuff. But a lot of the nuance is lost with the very abstract art, but at the same time, it offers so much of its own unique versatility, and that is what I love about this deck. So then we have the Three of Skies, which, is the Three of Swords with the heart that has three swords in it. So we have three trees, and they are unfortunately either hibernating or dead. But since these are in bloom, I'm going to assume that these are hibernating here. And then, okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this one here. So with the Suit of Skies, the transition between the cards isn't as clear as it is in the other cards so far. But here we have Four of Skies. And then we have the Five of Skies, where you get that sense of like bullying or aggression. You can see the sun here fills up the whole background, whereas over here, it's just barely taking shape. And then we have the Six of Skies. So these little birdies are hopefully moving towards a brighter future, if they can avoid the fighting in the Five of Skies. And that really is the end of that scene. Okay. So now we have the climax of the Suit of Swords, or Skies, and it is amazing. Right, so here we have the Seven of Skies. And we have 7 stars in the sky, or at least 7 prominently visible stars. It almost sort of looks like the Pleiades or something. I'm sure it's not, because this is a fantasy world and all of that. But all right, then we have the Eight of Skies. Come on, focus. Here we are. So there's really not a whole lot going on. We just have this black hole kind of in the background there. So you don't necessarily get the sense of, again, it's because it's abstract, the meanings are not necessarily obvious, but there really is a lot that you could draw out of this card if you wanted to. With this one, I think it's a little bit more difficult because there's not a whole lot to go on. These stars kind of seem to be falling away from the others, or maybe these are shooting away from these. It's really hard to tell what exactly is going on. And that's actually part of the beauty of this deck, is because that's what makes it so versatile in interpretation, where almost, unless you're going off the name of the card and the traditional meanings alone, no two readers may have the same interpretation for this card and what is going on. So I really like that. Okay, so now we come to the Nine of Skies. And again, my phone really likes the last unicorn there. Okay. All right. Did we get it? No. Yes. Okay. So here we have a bunch of meteors or asteroids in space. And this is the Nine of Skies. So remember, this card is about anxiety and sleepless nights and stress and worry. And the Ten of Skies shows us that the stress and worry are for good reason, because there's going to be an impact. Right. I almost put that upside down for a moment. Okay. So that is that series complete, and that is why I sort of separated them the way that I did, because you have this celestial imagery carrying on in the last 4 here that I think is really cool. Okay, so that brings us to the Page of Skies, and it is a cutie. Just like the Page of Oceans, the Page of Skies is really adorable. Okay, And then the Knight of Skies, very fearsome looking. Absolutely love it. The Queen of Skies, very gorgeous. And last but not least, the King of Skies. And there they are together. And again, we kind of have this where the backgrounds of the king and queen kind of meet nicely, but the colors really don't. She's got the sunny background, he's got the nighttime background. And so, yeah, I don't think they're meant to align at all, but they are, all of them, very beautiful regardless. I wonder if there was an intention, the way the backgrounds kind of line up on the king and queen. I wonder if there was an intention for them to be able to kind of form a single vision together, but it just didn't happen. All right, so now we come to the suit of earth, or coins, or pentacles, whatever you prefer to call it. We got to hide Amalthea here, or the camera will not focus on the card. Okay. So this is the Ace of Earth. And remember what the guidebook poster said about the suit of Earth. The kitsune line up behind lost travelers or lone travelers in the woods. There they are, the Two of Earth. Or Two of Coins. Then we have the Three of Coins here. And there they are. They are absolutely adorable too. So these are clearly young kitsune because they do not have many tails. Sorry, I'm being a bit of a perfectionist with lining the cards up there. Anyway, then we get to the Four of Earth. Let's see. So there are 4 acorns there, but a squirrel has taken one. And there we go. So we're going to leave that as the climax for this opening scene here. Now we have the Five of Earth. And this is such an interesting card. So he's got the traditional kind of pentagram or pentacle symbol there hovering over his head, which is really interesting. I love the way that he's just moving through the trees. I don't know if he's meant to be a kitsune. I'm assuming not, but whatever it is, it's beautiful and a little fearsome and mysterious, but amazing. Okay, then we have the Six of Earth, or coins here. I like that little shadowy figure down there in the bottom right. It's really cute, and I'm assuming that these are his friends, or her friends, their friends. So there are 6 of them. There are 6 sets of eyes there. Looks like maybe this one might be curious about this figure here, so it's kind of following him. Very interesting. So the Seven of Earth. Now we have 7 little acorns. And this one is down here all alone. This time, no squirrels to get in the way. And then the 8 of Earth. Let's see. There we go. So here we have, it looks like a couple of kitsune, but one is kind of behind the tree. And the other one's hiding out here up front. And together, they all form a nice little portrait again. I'm actually going to leave the 8 of Earth out. And then this is the 9 of Earth here. So another beautiful kitsune. And then the 10 of Earth, which is just a big tree with lots of flowers. It's really beautiful. There we are. So that brings us to the page and the last 4 court cards for the deck. The last 4 cards for the deck. Right, so this is the page of Earth or coins. We have that little, like a plant figure carrying the acorn this time. It's got so much potential for growth, especially juxtaposed to this mature tree here. Very beautiful. And then we have the Knight of Earth, which is absolutely adorable. So we certainly get the sense that this figure is an agile jumper. Easily could have been the Knight of Skies. Now we have the Queen of Earth. And lastly, the King of Earth, which is the artwork from the box of the first edition. So that is the Lost Forest Tarot. I absolutely love this deck. Every reading that I've had with it has been absolutely amazing. I really wish the Ascended and the Nameless or Faceless one would come up in readings more. They don't. I've never had either one of them show up in a reading. But that said, I absolutely love this deck. Thank you so much for joining me. Please, 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 please let me know your thoughts about this deck. Do you have any of the versions of this deck, either the first or second, or are we on a third now? What do you think about the differences between the 2 versions? Which majors did you choose for your deck? Like, please let me know, your thoughts about this deck, because this is absolutely an incredible deck, and I would love to have some conversations about it in the comments down below. Thank you so much again for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please do leave me a like and consider subscribing so that hopefully we can see each other in another video again soon. Thank you so much, and until then, take care.